You want to start here, but you can't stay here all the time. You want to be as high as you can at the beginning, but it's got to have ebbs and flows and hills and valleys to be interesting. And I think we accomplished that.
This is Ojayy with GhostCultMag.com, and I'm here with the great Bobby Blitz of Overkill. Bobby, how are you doing, man?
What's happening, Ojayy? Good to be here, my friend.
Oh, happy to have you, man. And we're here to talk about your new record, Scorched, your 20th record since 1983. That's crazy.
And that comes out on the 14th of April.
I gotta ask you, since you've been writing songs for damn near 40 years, like, what's your writing process? Like, do you like write songs ahead of the music? Like, I have ideas here, or do you just like wait to hear the song and then you get inspired?
It goes both ways, but primarily what we do is the riff happens first. I mean, that's really the core of the song, to coin a phrase. It's I have written songs where the melody has become the primary inspiration for the song, but that is really few and far between. I think probably since, I don't know, Ironbound for sure, the riff has been the first part of the origin of the tune.
I've noticed with Ironbound, actually, I was going to get to that one a little bit later, but now I noticed like your recording style has changed since working with Pete from Hypocrisy. You've done, I noticed like just sonically, and the mixes have gotten so much stronger and fuller sounding since working with him. I guess you guys picked up a bunch from him.
We sent it to him. We didn't record with him. We just had him mix for us. So he didn't really produce the record, but we've been producing our own stuff. I would say it's post horoscope. So it's like the 90s when you and I were just jawing before about the old days before we started recording, about different records in the 90s. That's when we really started producing our own stuff, about halfway through the 90s. And we always try to bring somebody in to mix it. I mean, that's kind of been the key to the success, is that you need somebody who's an objective voice in the room, or a set of objective ears. So like on the Ironbound record, working with Peter was really cool, because I think he gave us a different perspective, especially with his love of eclectic music. I mean, the guy's he's all over the map when he works with Till from Rammstein, or he does his own stuff with Hypocrisy, etc. But we like that objective ear, and we like it to be eclectic. So this time around with Scorched, we work with Colin Richardson, and Colin is like, you mentioned earlier when we were just again jawing the Underground and Below. That was Colin Richardson mixing that record. So it's kind of good to be able to go home and try to achieve the same results sonically as we did back in the 90s or even before that.
You've recorded both analog and digital. Is there a difference in your process in the way you record now?
Well, sure. I mean, sure. Digital is easier. I mean, it's a fingertip type of a recording. There's no lugging the heavy weights, of actually changing physical tapes like you used to back in studios. The Horoscope record, I have it all up in the attic of my garage. It's all 2-inch tapes, man. I mean, there's got to be 25 boxes of 2-inch tapes. That's heavy lifting compared to the modern era of, having a computerized program or Pro Tools, etc. But I think there's something lost somewhere between analog and digital. I think it's great that digital is, something that is, at your fingertips. But I think there was something very warm and special about the analog days. But I'm also dating myself, right? I mean, it's like I come from the analog days, I mean, I'm not in my 40s, I'm not in my 50s. So the point being is that I'm used to that 2-inch tape. But what's easier for me on a personal level is just singing, because it's just something that I've always done. I mean, I've done it since I was a kid. I was never afraid to do it. I was never that great of a singer. I mean, I kind of know it, but I aspire to be one, and I'm not fucking afraid to do it. So I don't mind jumping behind the mic anywhere and giving it a shot. And since I stopped smoking, I stopped smoking about 11 years ago, and it opened my voice up. I never thought it was going to have such a profound effect on me, but to some degree, my vocals get a little better as time go on, since dropping the Marlboros. but I still have my pacifier out.
I would always equate your voice oddly to Steven Tyler, because if you listen to those early records, you both had like a different register a little bit, and then like you guys hit like the level of vocal range that you were more comfortable with now. It's like you got a little bit higher, while your early records were a little bit deeper sounding, and then you get to the voice that everybody loves. You know, you get to that raspier range, and it's like, oh, I found that really cool.
I like to call that Mickey Mouse on meth. You know, it's just it can get up there. It could be nails on a chalkboard, man. I get it. You know, it's not for everybody.
Oh, I enjoy it. You've done some eclectic stuff between this, the little stuff you did with Metal Legions, and that BP that record with Portnoy and everybody else. That other record.
Phil Demo,
yes,
Phil Demo, Mark Mengi, Mike, and myself. I mean, that was a fun cover record. You know, that was like a little pandemic thing. You know, it was we had it done before the pandemic. Napalm Records picked it up. And we were actually scheduling some festivals to do over in Europe. You know, we were going to try to match the festivals with, Mike's Sons of Apollo or Overkill, so that we could do, we could do twofers. You know, I could play and then with Overkill and then play with BPMD, or Mike with Sons of Apollo and then we play with BPMD. But the pandemic just fucked the whole thing up. You know, I mean, that fucked everybody up, not just that record. But that was a fun record to release during kind of a dark time, because those cover songs were something, they were from the 70s. It was called Made in America in the 1970s, or American Made, my mistake, 1970s. And it was the shit I grew up on, so I mean, I knew those songs. I mean, they were picking this, they picked the songs. Oh, I want to do this one. I want to do it. I was like, know it. So it was minimal work is my point.
I hear you. So, like, speaking of that pandemic, like, you guys started writing Scorched during the pandemic, and you guys were just emailing tracks back and forth.
We were doing, we were on the road when the hammer dropped, and when the other shoe dropped, when, the world shut down. We were down in North Carolina, and, we got you got a message, you got a notification. Live Nation is thinking of, canceling shows worldwide based on the coronavirus. And, you knew it wasn't like they were thinking about it. All that was a heads up, to lessen the shock when it actually happened, hours later. But I got the demo, I mean, right then. And that was March 12th, 2020. So when I got home on like the 15th or 16th, I was holding not a physical demo, but I had it downloaded to my computer. So it was a great place to go to. It was in a skeletal type form. The arrangements were there for the most part, not all the parts, and definitely not the vocals. So for me, it was a really great time to be messing with music, because everything else was haywire. There was no normality to it. It seemed like it was insanity. I'm like, every morning you'd wake up and go, oh my God, I can't believe this shit. I mean, I can't believe the body count. I can't believe the lockdowns, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, the list goes on. But for me, I had a place to go, and that was that demo. And that seemed like normalcy in an abnormal time. So I was very happy to have it.
I look at it like your first record. It's like, oh, you have your whole life to work on your first record, and now you actually have more time. You're not really rushing to like put this record out, like in that cycle of, hey, we got to hit the road, we got to go. You kind of had more time to breathe with this record. So I feel like you guys got to do those extra tweaks that you was like, shoot, I wish I had one more pass at this. I wish I wrote that instead of this. You had that little bit of extra, patience that you get from the first records.
Yeah, that's a really good pickup, because we've always worked on a clock. I mean, you said you've been attached to the band since, the 90s, when your first Overkill experience happened. And we've worked on a clock since, the 80s. And that clock usually runs between like, it's a 24-month period primarily, and that's a long period. Sometimes it was 18 months. And we would write, record, promote, release, tour, right? And then that was the clock. So this, this period of time, between releases will now be 4 years. This is like double what we've ever done when it comes to a release. But I think that, you know, if I look at it objectively, even though we weren't in the same room doing, you know, putting all this shit together, the upside of it is that we, for the first time in this long fucking harrowed career, that we've had the time to look at what we were doing. You know, we had the time to be objective about ourselves and think, you know, hey, fuck, man, I could do that better, you know, or I can really push that, or I could make this, you know, I could add another hook to this or another riff, or you know, Dave he's grabbing my vocal lines and he's doing counter melodies to them. And vice versa, I'm grabbing his leads and doing counter melodies to them. So it actually, even though it was a shitty time for the fucking world, that somewhere inside there was this little candle burning, you know, in the back of my head saying, this is going to be a good fucking record.
It seems like since Necroshine, you've been working with Travis Smith on the covers. And his art, he was like the 90s guy. When you think of like metal, he became like the 90s guy between you guys, between Death and everybody else. He was just you couldn't go a month without seeing a Travis Smith cover.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. You know, we picked up on him, I think, because of other people using him at that particular time. I forget how we were introduced, but we've been friends now for, you know, for 24, 25 years. So it's, you know, he really likes working with us. Because we kind of give them a free hand. We don't go in and say, we want this, we want that, we want this. We want to see, you know, we want to see artwork. We don't want to make the artwork. You know, I'm not an artist. You know what I mean? I mean, I can appreciate when somebody puts something in front of me that's beautiful, or something in front of me that is disgusting or ugly. You know, I mean, if it's art, I can still appreciate that, but I can't really create it. Maybe I can see it in my head, maybe I can't, but Travis can, and that's the difference. And when it came to this, I think we just handed him the Eurobus, the snake that eats its own tail. It's like a circular,
yeah.
You know, the snake is coming back around, he's eating his own tail. And we said, you know, what can you get out of this? And what he came up with was the album cover for Scorched. And once it was titled Scorched, he's running with the ball. You know, he's adding flames in the background. He's got the two demons facing off at each other. You know, they're sitting on their spines or their tails. And that's all I can tell you, is that we've said more flames, you know, more green, not like do this, do that. That's Travis. So it's one of the great perks of working with him, is that he is an artist and he sees things. He sees things before they're in front of him. He sees them in his head.
He has done such good work but not just only with you guys. I remember comic book work covers he's done. He's been like, I heard he's also a guitarist.
Trav messes around with the music.
Yeah, that's wild. Okay, so let's dive into a quick track by track breakdown of the new record, Scorched. The first track up is Scorched. I gotta say, the drums and the guitar, you guys know how to start a damn record.
Well, I mean, we've always we've always been about grandeur when it comes to an opening track. I mean, there's always been intros. You know, there's intros to all the way back to our first record. The song was called Raise the Dead. We had an intro for Raise the Dead. You know, it was like we recorded a bunch of stuff that, like, it sounded like a crypt opening, and there was some laughter in the background, and then there was some big guitars come in. So all the way 20 fucking records ago, we've been doing this since. And it's really to set the tone. And I think that on Scorched, what I hear with that guitar intro is that it's setting the tone to say somewhere in this, we've changed just a little bit. We've pushed the parameters for ourselves, because this is a very kind of 80s thing to open a record with a guitar intro. You know, very kind of, I don't know, even before that. I mean, and I'm not comparing it, but just there's similarities in the characteristics. But think of the song Sad Wings of Destiny. You know, I mean, it opens with a fucking guitar intro, you know? And, you know, I thought to myself when I first heard DD's version of it, before Dave got his hands on it, I was like, you know, this is really cool. If everything that follows this is kind of a throwback, but with a new face on it, this guitar intro will have set the tone for that. So I think that it succeeded with the results of the record.
You guys know how to start a record and end a record. They're always just bangers, in my opinion.
Yeah, we always say that about live shows. It's the first song and the last song. All the rest of it's shit.
The next track is going home.
Yeah, Going Home is it's one of the things. I mean, I kind of alluded to it in the last answer, but there's a lot of traditional heavy metal on this. There's obviously a modern version of traditional heavy metal based on the mix, and based on the arrangements, more so to the traditional end in some of the songwriting. And this is one of those tunes. I mean, this is a riff-based song that has got a metallic, melodic hook to it. So, I mean, this lends itself more to, again, that traditional vibe than specifically a thrash vibe. Now, you can mix both together and have nuances of both inside. But this is one of the reasons that this record's got all the dynamics, is a song like Going Home. Coming out of that, that first guitar intro and Scorched into a thrasher, into kind of a traditional heavy metal song, it means the record's going to go different places, I think.
Yeah, this record is very sequenced, lovely. It's got the nice flow. It's got a nice flow.
That's a good pickup, because that's what you want to do. You want to start here, but you can't stay here all the time. You want to be as high as you fucking can at the beginning, but it's got to fucking have ebbs and flows and hills and valleys to be interesting. And I think we accomplished that with regard to the sequencing of each of the songs.
Yeah, this is a groovin' record. It's thrashy and groovin' at the same time. And I enjoyed that fact of it. It doesn't get boring. It doesn't tire your ears out. That's
a good point too, because when we mixed the record, that was actually physically said by us. I'm surprised you picked it up, because it's got kind of a modern punch to it with regard to the drums, even though we're mixing room microphones in with those digital drums. I mean, it's not all digital, obviously. There's a mix between the two, so it's a blend. But what's on top of that is a room resonance, which is a natural drum sound that we're recording in the room. So it's new, but it's old. And then the guitars that we picked up, we scooped the guitars, almost like a 90s, early 90s kind of a vibe when it comes to listening to something. For us, it would have been maybe a horoscope type vibe. Now, it's not the exact same tones, but it's kind of heading in that EQ direction. But we said to Colin Richardson when he was mixing this, we said, we don't want a fucking record where you're exhausted after the first song, the first 4 songs, where it's so fucking loud that your ears have the shit kicked out of them. We want it to be able to play it on 10, have it be loud, in your face, and not tire you out.
Yeah, you guys succeeded.
Thank you.
The next track we have is The Surgeon, which I feel like should be a comic book.
That's a good one. Have Travis Smith do the cover.
I'll write it. I'll find an artist to draw it.
Man, this was the first single we released. They did a visualizer for it. And it's really just an ad. I mean, it's not like anything except, buy our record, but hear our song. But this was, to me, after the pandemic, and DD agreed, and so did the other guys, was, The Surgeon is kind of the template we've used for a period of time. We've used this kind of a thrash template before. Maybe not the same arrangement, maybe not the same vocal line, but this is Overkill 101. I think that's more of a DD expression than myself. But it's kind of like Overkill, first period math. This is the way that we do shit. And we thought, after this pandemic, we'd pushed the record back 2 fucking years. After the pandemic, we should just show that, no, it didn't slow us down either. We know it didn't slow you down, but it didn't slow us down either. So I thought that this was a good introduction to the record. It kind of has that pandemic vibe to it with the surgeon and medical and blah, blah, blah. Everybody calling Dr. Fauci the surgeon, and that whole fucking load of fucking happy horse shit. But the point is that it was good for us to even know, hey man, shit hasn't changed. Hey, maybe we're a little grayer after this fucking thing, but we're still overkill.
Next up is Twist of the Wick, which I enjoyed the little blast beat. So it's like, oh, we got a little blast beat up in here. Like, all right, Jason.
Death metal Jason Bittner. that fucking kid could do anything, and I think he's the fucking hero of this record. He's really the MVP. And that's because of his ability to adapt to things. This was one of the hardest songs for me to write. It doesn't make any sense because this is the kind of shit that's been in my wheelhouse for forever. But I think it's because of what surrounded it, that everything else was very eclectic around this song. And it was so unique unto itself in a thrash way, that and that blast beat kind of a way. But it started going other places in the middle of the song. And I never got a full vision of the song until I'd actually finished my parts of it. And the shit DD was doing with like the choir in the center and what Jason did on the drums, it really made it one of the more standout tracks on the record. And I had no fucking idea until after it was mixed, and they kept going to me, oh, it's got to be Twist of the Wick. It's got to be Twist of the Wick. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, that song sucks. I want nothing to do with that. And then I'm listening to it in my house on my stereo. I'm going, holy fuck, what the fuck do we do here? But it was, I thought, a really unique thing. And it goes a few places with the melodic choruses and DD's choir in the center. That DD put a choir in there. He worked with Derek and Michael Romeo from Symphony X to make that choir thing happen in the center. And I think it really, man, there's a lot of fucking ear candy on this. There's choirs and church bells and cellos and fucking all sorts of happy horse shit on there.
Yeah, the way it hits that little groove in the middle when you get to your chorus to say it's all over. I was like, that little, that whole section just like, yeah. That just seems so
it was fun for me was like the way you're saying it. That's the way I fucking heard it when I came to the house. I had no fucking idea that this was actually had been accomplished. I'm like, what am I, a fucking idiot? I mean, it's like, is there an idiot in the room or is it just me?
Next up is a Wicked Place, which I like to call it like the swing metal, because it just got that little shuffly kind of that just swing. It starts with a swing.
I like the fact that Twist of the Wick and Wicked Place are right by each other, so together it goes Twist of the Wicked Place. And I thought, I was like, I'm thinking to myself, nobody really thought about that at the beginning, but I was like, it's actually okay. So we can always do that live where we could just tag them both together. But I think you're right. This is a blues ride. And that's, this is the shit I grew up on, I mean, I was singing, shit in the shower. I was singing stuff like this in the shower when I was a kid, not shitting in the shower, but I was singing stuff like this in the shower when I was a kid. I mean, but it's a punch in the face kind of a version of it. It's it's Foghat. It's it's Old Sabbath kind of the stuff that influenced me and Dee and Dave Linsk. That swinging blues, heavy rock fucking riff that just tears your soul in two pieces and then sews it back up before the song's done. And I fucking love this kind of stuff. I mean, this one's going to be our second single, our second visualizer single, because I don't know. I just can't get enough of that song. It's so simple, and sometimes simple is the best way to look at things. And it's a great blues ride, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree with that one. Yeah. Won't Be Coming Back. For me, I get like very Dio vibes from that intro, and just that kind of, it does feel totally like early 80s, late 70s kind of vibe.
That song, I was, it's pandemic time, and I'm out on the deck, and I'm here. It's me and a dog, me, a dog, and a Harley. That was the pandemic, and a couple of cases of beer in the basement. But in any case, every time that intro came on, I agree with you 100%. I was like, I had a bum 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 holy
yes.
And I'm like, oh shit. But then it goes somewhere else. And one of the things I'm going to talk a little bit about, we don't talk much about records when we're doing them. I mean, we talk about parts of the record, but not the big overall picture. We kind of let that form itself. And I remember talking to DD about the record in general, and it was just, it was a short fucking, 3-minute conversation. And he goes, what do you think? I said, just write it like it's going to be the last record, like we're not coming back. I said, if you write it like we're not coming back, or it's the last record, you'll succeed. I said, it's just going to be that simple. And so when the song started coming together for me, and I was choosing words, kind of dusting them off from my collection of words over the years, won't be coming back just seemed like the right thing to do. Now, we're obviously not saying we're not coming back, but the point is that somewhere in there, it should be noted that it was written as if, the world was burning, that kind of a thing, that, we might not be coming back, but that goes for anybody at any time. So I think that we got good results from that. So I just wanted to include it lyrically throughout the record somewhere.
Very clever. Good. It's good to have like a good lyricist. Some people just write to write, and it feels like a lot of your lyrics kind of do tell stories. Like you're more than a lyricist. You're like a storyteller, because like the music is one thing, but when you add your vocals to it, like almost any Overkill song, you just close your eyes and hear us and see a story.
Oh, that's cool. That's nice. It's a big compliment. Listen, I know I'm a total fucking realist when it comes to this stuff. I know that everything can't be a masterpiece. I know that. And I know that sometimes a masterpiece is directly related to the amount of time you put into it. And sometimes you're just a lucky motherfucker and you just hit it right in one shot. You get it in one fucking take. So I know what it's all about. And I know that they're not all fucking, they're all not literary classics, but I know that sometimes I do hit on it. And I think that that's one of the songs, Won't Be Coming Back, that I did hit on something that was, struck a nerve, or at least got a thought process going for a listener out.
Yeah, you're not the kid that wrote, the record, the song. You're not the same songwriter as you were in 1980 as you are today. So like
that's a good
things
point.
change. Songs you might have been super, like I've written stuff back in the day and I was like, oh, that's kind of cringy to me now. Like I couldn't sing this lyrically live because I just think it just sounds cheesy and hacky. But that's where you started, and now you just mature in everything.
No, thanks. That's yeah. One of the things this record says, and I'm going to jump to the song "Fever." It's a really different kind of a tune, because it's got the mellow end, it's got the really heavy end. It's tuned down to an A. You hit that first chord in a heavy part, it breaks all grandma's dishes in the china cabinet. You know what I'm saying? The whole house is shaking. There's so much low end in it. And, I thought it was kind of ballsy for DD to go out on that limb, because we've done ballads in the past, but I don't think we've done anything in years that has an epic type feel to it. And this is more that eclectic view on the record, that it's got that traditional heavy metal. It's got that twist of the wick blast beats. It's got the surgeon, which is Thrash 101. It's got heavy metal. It's got that blues ride. And now it's got this too. And I thought to myself, man, this was the hardest fucking thing to sing for me until I realized I didn't have to overthink it. That I just had to go in there and just open my mouth, and it worked. And I think that's the idea of this record, that we have all that time to realize that we still are what we were, it's just that we're more experienced, that, like what you were saying with the lyrics before, we're more experienced, and there's an air of maturity to the record Scorched. And I think that, though that was a dirty word for me 10 or 15 years ago, it's not anymore. And the results are in the entire record of Scorched.
Yeah. Harder They Fall. Let's just blast these last three and just wrap it, take it home.
Yeah, Harder They Fall, just kind of a thrash again, 101. I dug the fact that the arrangement was done a little bit differently for DD, with how the riffs and how the rhythms went together. It was more of a traditional vibe to us. The next one would be Know Her Name, lyrically about liberty, just quite that simple. If you don't know where it comes from, you don't know how to lose it, or when you lose it, I suppose. And what's the last one? Bag of Bones. And that was, that song was, it was mock titled as Last One. And I thought to myself, DD must have written this as the last song. We were on the phone all the time, but I would just forget certain things to ask him. And finally I asked him, he goes, no. He goes, this one just is so much different than all the other ones that it's got to sit by itself. So it has to be the last one that we sequence on the record. And I think he was right when he saw that, that future tense of the song being finished, or whatever the vision of that song was, because it's just got this bombastic type groove to it that swings back and forth. but it's fun. You know, it's a fun little journey of swinging, you know, sledgehammer type, sledgehammer and you know,
Almost,
16-ounce S wigs.
yeah, it's almost poppy.
And it's unto itself on the record. I think probably, I'm not going to say the best track, but for sure one of the most unusual tracks on the record for us. And the result speaks for itself when I say it.
Yeah, it's very catchy. It's catchy in a pop, kind of almost pop way. It's like, oh, it's just, the chorus is very, it's very hummable.
We got those Steven Tyler, Joe Perry fucking harmonies during the chorus. It's me and DD going back and forth with each other.
Cool. Now, I have one last question before I let you go. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Since Overkill's been around for all these years, you actually have those songs entitled Overkill. The last one, I believe, was Overkill 5. Will there ever be a part 6 to that, or an EP collecting all the Overkills, or a re-recording of said songs?
The five was on Immortalis. It was a song.
Correct. The brand.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think so. I think to some degree, I don't know if I would go back there anymore. You know, I don't forget my past. I mean, I'm not saying that, and I don't discount it. I'm a firm believer in the fact that everything is necessary to bring you to the current day. Every step, every mistake, and every success. You know, failures and successes are what make, you know, the men we are today. You know, if it was all good, you know, everybody'd be happy all the fucking time, and there'd be no need for music. Well, this kind of music anyway. But I don't think so. I don't think that I would want to go back and revisit that. I mean, I'm even like remastering shit like this Atlantic Records thing. I never wanted to fucking do that. I mean, it was their right to do it. And, you know, and then they did it so that they could keep the product active, you know, and I was totally against it. I'm like, I don't want you to fucking remaster our stuff. I mean, that shit's set in time. You know, I mean, that's the way it should be. These are fucking relics at this point, and they should stay relics, not this whole new approach to everything. So I don't think the Overkill stuff will ever be put together. There's 5 songs or a 6th one coming. I can never say never, but my vote would be no.
Oh, there you have it. Bobby, I really, again, thank you for your time, man. You've been a gem to talk to and talk about this record and just meddle in your history of all these years. I really appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you on the road again.
Bro, you're a gentleman. Up the Ghost Cult. My name is Bobby Blitz, and I approve this fucking message.